Governments deny it. Militaries deny it. Even the mainstream media denies it. But they are here, and they've been here for a very long time. The Mutual UFO Network has been on the front lines uncovering the truth since 1969, and now we're sharing that truth with you. Welcome to MUFON What's Up with your hosts, Katie Page, Christopher DePerno, and Katie Cook, exclusively on the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. Wondering what's up? So are we.
What's up, everybody? It is Tuesday night. We are so happy to be back live. You are listening to MUFON What's Up Radio, the show that says discovery starts with curiosity and curiosity starts with MUFON. Brought to you by KGRADB.com. I hope you go to their website and please subscribe. And also make sure you give us the thumbs up there. That really helps us out. And I'm so happy you guys are all here with us tonight. We have an amazing guest for you tonight. We have Linda Zimermann. I cannot wait to get to her. I have so many questions about Hudson Valley, which will be at the Pine Bush UFO Festival here, in just, a couple weeks now. So I'm so excited to learn all about the Hudson Valley. As always, we're brought to you by MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, always asking that all-important question, are we alone in the universe? And this week for the 2022 MUFON International Symposium Spotlight, we have Mr. Dave Scott. Now, Dave Scott is going to be talking about the media doesn't understand our story. And I just got to hang out with Dave Scott and also Michael Schratt there in Las Vegas. And he is just an awesome guy, knows so many people in the field, and he will be awesome to hang out with there at the symposium. So I hope you can join us out here in Denver that second weekend in July, right after the 4th of July. It's the weekend after the 4th of July. So I would first like to introduce my co-host. You've seen her on Country Music Television, and she's into all things UFO paranormal, Miss Katie Cook.
Hello. Hi, Katie. Hi. So good to see you, Katie. You look beautiful tonight.
Oh, you as well. It's good to be back. And would like to bring on Chris DePerno, New York State Director and ERT. Welcome, Chris. Oh, and Jenna and Jerry.
I'm telling you, put her dress down, for God's sakes. Jesus. This is a PG show, and we're going to keep it PG.
Are we?
No. But anyways, we'll try.
We do the best we can.
Welcome, everybody, to the show. We're going to have a great show. My folks, Jerry and Jenna, are here. They're ready to go. We're going to have a great show with Linda Zimermann. These guys probably came from the Hudson Valley. There's more UFO sightings in the Hudson Valley. Matter of fact, it's so bad in the Hudson Valley, they got to put traffic lights up in the sky so they don't have crashes. Geico says that they're down there, and they're writing insurance policies all the time for those UFOs. So anyways,
that's awesome.
Well, you got to have that little Geico little thing there. Okay. Enough said.
Yeah, he is reptilian, isn't he?
Yeah.
I really thought about that.
Yeah. And he's probably giving breaks to his cousins. So who knows?
So okay. Katie, where do you have to kick us off tonight?
Well, we just had Mother's Day. And so, with that still on my mind, I found a cute little meme to kick us off for the week. Check this one out. That's pretty great. For those of you guys just listening, it's the alien from the Alien movies, as in Sigourney Weaver. And, her little baby pops out of some poor guy's chest with a little Mother's Day card. It says, "To the world's greatest mom from your loving boy." Blah! So gross. Yeah.
All mothers need love.
But yeah, even the really ugly, terrifying ones with like the double mouth, still a mother, right? Let's talk about.
I have my wife's cooking. I get the same thing, like something's going to pop out of the side over here.
You're in
That's
so
why
much trouble.
I got to tell you, Tully's is a great place. Anyways, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I try every week. I try to stop you from getting in trouble. All right, let's talk about
you
the
try my wife's cooking, then you tell me if you like it or not.
Okay. Oh God, stop all your head. Okay, look, I got little angel wings this week. Little angel wings for Pops. They're so cute. We got a little picture there. These are in honor of our dear friend Angelia Shear. Wendy Robinson, who makes the Pops, felt inspired to create the Pops after Angelia passed, and she collects money from the sale of the wings to donate to various causes near and dear to Angelia's Angelia's heart. And yeah, with Mother's Day just this weekend, I couldn't help but think of Angelia a lot this weekend. She was a very proud mother to her daughter Shanna and grandmother to Henley and Jake. She mothered all of us. So thinking of you this week, Ange, as always. And you can order these pops at paranormalpops.com. And finally, if you know any ufologists with a birthday coming up, I found a cute little birthday card for you. On your birthday, aliens are going to abduct all the good-looking people. And you open it up and you got nothing to worry about. Happy birthday. Little sassy card. I thought that was cute. I thought that was good. You can order that at nobleworkscards.com. So there's some cute stuff for you. Chris, what you got in news this week?
Well, hold on. I got to get ready for the first news story. Hold on one second.
Oh, goodness. Oh, what is happening? I'm a little nervous. Should we be nervous? If he actually has to get up and walk away for a second, what could this be? Uh-oh.
Okay.
Jerry, Jenna, help us out here.
What is he doing?
Oh,
no.
what is happening?
Well, you know, Katie, Cookie, I got to tell you tell me every week I butcher the name of the show. I'm going to butcher this story so bad, I'm going to have some protection. I'll tell you, I brought my cleaver to butcher it. All right, here we go. Story number 1. Come on, Amanda, let's roll. The mayor of the Turkish city wherein Globi Tepe is located recently offered a fantastic theory, don't laugh, for the ancient site's origins. Aliens. The eyebrow-raising assessment reportedly occurred earlier this week as, here we go, Zainal Abidin Beyaguzul, oh my God, who presides over the community of Urfa. Let me tell you something. I wouldn't be bragging about a community of Urfa, but was speaking to a Turkish media outlet and discussing 12,000-year-old complex. The mayor mused, every person who sees Göbekli Tepe, scientists or a normal person would not go there, states that there is a mystery and secrets here, but they can't find it. Why is it a mystery and secrets if they can't find it? Belzaguzul then boldly declared that I will tell you about these mysteries and secrets, which he apparently believes centered around an extraterrestrial hypothesis. The mayor surprisingly argued that the status in Göbekli Tepe depict something other than humans. They seem to be coming from somewhere else. They remind me of aliens. He pointed out a number of elements about the site which informed that thinking. Specifically, the mayor noted that the aforementioned sculptures show people who are wearing attire that appears to be out of place for the era in which the complex was built. Folks, they didn't have any attire back then. This is 12,000 years before the Sumerians. People of the time wore pelts, but here we see V-shaped outfits. You can see that in Hollywood Boulevard, too. Additionally, Belzaguzul pointed out the particular depiction of handbags. Apparently, they were Gucci's. And some of the artwork, and observed that those purses were like modern purses of today. If we think that those purses were made by the men of the time, we would be wrong. Beyond the artwork at the site, the mayor also expressed skepticism that the massive stones used to construct the complex have been moved by humans. Instead, asked, did beings from outer space come and do this? Wow. The theory that extraterrestrials may have had a hand in Göbekli Tepe is not a particular new idea. You know, some of these mayors got to be John Smith sometimes. Ancient alien enthusiasts, the fact that Belzaguzul seemingly endorsed the concept is rather remarkable. With that in mind, what is your take on the mayor's thoughts? Do you think aliens built Göbekli Tepe, or was it the work of human hands? Hey, Amanda, let's roll that tape. Wait a minute. I finished butchering. Roll that tape.
Could Göbekli Tepe be the work of aliens? Sanliurfa Metropolitan Municipality Mayor Zainal Abidin Beyazgul says that there is a possibility that non-human beings built Göbekli Tepe 12,000 years ago. Beyazgul said, sculptures do not look like people either. It brings to mind aliens. We went back 12,000 years. To the 0 point of history, Göbekli Tepe. Göbekli Tepe is a place that impresses everyone with its 20-ton giant monoliths, nested circles, bags and similar visuals, and leaves question marks in their minds. Who did it is a secret. We talked to Sanliurfa Metropolitan Municipality Mayor Zainal Abidine Bayazgul about the secrets and mystery of Göbekli. Bayazgul told Milliyet about the Sanliurfa Museum and Göbekli. So many secrets. Sanliurfa Museum is a museum that tells about the first people and the Neolithic period. What was the first human image we all had in mind? A hunter with a spear in his hand, dressed in the furs of animals. Until Göbekli was discovered, people thought of the first human being as a hunter-gatherer man only from the Neolithic age. However, it was stated that after Göbekli emerged, works of art were also made. Every person who comes to Urfa, every person who sees Göbekli, scientist or normal person states that there is a mystery and secrets here. But they can't find it. What is this secret? What is this mystery? They think about it. I will tell you about these mysteries and secrets. He may not be human. Fish Lake Man. When we look at the hand situation, we see that the fingers of the stones in Göbekli and the place where these two hands meet are the same as the figures there. At that time it is considered to have lived in the same era. But there is a mystery here. You see the V-neck. Where else is this V-neck? You can see this in different works of art thousands of kilometers away that have nothing to do with the V-neck. But what is interesting? While we saw the first human wearing an animal skin a little while ago, here we see a properly dressed human wearing a V-neck. It means that the first human was not a human wearing animal fur as we think. Or something else. Baliklegal man is 12,000 years old. It is considered human. But when we look at the neck part, it goes down the same as the face, and the waist part and the neck part are the same thickness. There are 3 bags on the Göbekli monolith. It is very similar to today's bags. It is not possible to carry the animals that appear with this bag. The bag is similar to the bags in the modern world. Similar bags exist in Egypt and the USA. It's in the Sumerians. The bag in Göbekli is exactly the same as the bag in Sumer. What was carried in this bag? Who made these? We would be wrong if we thought that the hunter in furs made it human. There is a very strong possibility that a different entity will do this.
Okay, so there we go. Cookie, what do you think?
Well, I am fascinated with this place. Now, I've heard it pronounced Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
I think that should at least be close.
How about an ancient site?
We love your butchering. It's so entertaining.
You can't butcher any worse than that. I
think I first heard about this from Linda Moulton Howe, like in 2014. I was in Eureka Springs and she was talking about it. That was the first time I had heard about it personally. And I remember her talking about how some of the animal species didn't seem to make sense based on what we thought, was around back then. But have you been watching, there's a show on Netflix called The Gift, and it is set at Göbekli Tepe. It's fictional, but it's awesome. I really, really recommend it. It's really cool. It's kind of my new Netflix addiction. But yeah, I find this place fascinating. I'd love to go there. It's like on the Turkish-Syrian border, right? So I think there's maybe times when it's a little less safe than other times, but yeah.
I don't know. I do know that if Gucci was around at that time making purses and they had V-neck shirts and stuff like that, I always thought that this earth has been around for so long that we've had many civilizations here, advanced ones, they die out. I mean,
yeah, the turnover.
Yeah, because the way we're going, we ain't going to last long either.
I think they look like blue avians, the bird people on there. And I don't know if they're purses. I think they look more like possible battery type things that they could have carried, power. I don't know. Also, I think it's fascinating. The monoliths look like tuning forks. Have you heard of this theory? The tuning forks and how they're in that circle because there's something with the spirals we all know. So I find all of it. I think there's clues to be found in ancient Egypt and Göbekli Tepe.
Just say the ancient site, for God's sake. I butchered it. Ain't nobody going to butcher it as much as I did. I looked at this story. I think my wife picked out that story. I think she hates me. She said, I'll make it. All right, let's get on with our second story here. Here we go again. Gray aliens show UFO abductee Sherry Wild the future of the planet Earth. When Sherry Wilde was 17 years old, she had an incident of missing time. She always wondered what happened, but put it in the back of her mind for many years. She finally had a hypnotic regression where Sherry realized that she had been taken aboard a spacecraft many times at a young age. Through her regressions, Sherry, to her understanding, that she came to Earth at this time to be a volunteer, to be an assistant, and to transmute negative energy. Okay, I don't know what transmuting negative energy is, but it sounds pretty cool. In 1987, when her community experienced a UFO flap that was considered one of the most active in the world, no one could have ever guessed the unbelievable turn of events that would occur over the next 18 to 24 months as Sherry was forced to accept her involvement in the phenomenon that was totally unknown to her. Faced with an indisputable evidence that she was experiencing contact with extraterrestrial beings was astonishing to this level-headed woman. Never mind. But to learn her contact has been going for her entire life almost pushed her over the edge. Sherry spent the next several years of her life trying to understand the experiences and did her best to return to a normal life. But when heavy contact started again in the late 2009, she could no longer ignore it. Her memory opened to the past events and the teachings of these beings had imparted to her. She now accepts the truth that these encounters and has cooperative contact on a regular basis with beings. She affectionately refers to her as her guys. That's like that song, My Guys, talking about my guys. Then she got a significant download, so that pushed her into action. The Da, I don't know what the Da is, but it sounds pretty cool. The Da told her, maybe that's a New York guy. Hey, the Da! This time will come for those who are out the light and ready to live in peace and harmony will not be allowed to do so because the presence of lower frequency beings still aligned with conflict and control over others. It will not be possible for them to exist on the same time and space. That means I'm a goner. Then the possibilities for them to exist. Anyways, the aliens show me the ends of two magnets that could not be brought together. See how they repel due to the difference in polarity? So it will be with humanity. He went on to explain that the gulf between the service of self, people, and the service to others will be too contentious. Those with the lower frequencies will be removed from the planet so the higher frequency beings could live in peace and harmony. Soon after this, the alien left my life, but not before he talked to me at great length about the great earth changes that were destined to occur in the future. Okay, so I'm a lower frequency being, so I'm done. Anyways, Amanda, roll that tape.
They talked about going out on the astral plane, going leaving their body and going out and like doing battle, which I always thought that's kind of, I didn't know if I wasn't sure I believed it. The part about doing battle. And then here I am, all sick, an old lady, but that's what I did. At night, for a major portion of the nights I was down there, I was aware that I was going out of my body. I was going into another body, but it was, sometimes it was an ET body, I think, but other times it was a human body, a human-looking body, because they wanted someone who was human. And I swear we were like in tunnel, it was like a tunnel. Now, I don't know if that was a ship that was long and dark and narrow, but it felt like a tunnel. And it was dark. It felt like a cave. And it was horrific. I don't scream every night like I used to. I had night terrors for a long time. Now I'm used to waking up in the night and having lights in the room. I'm used to waking up and having a Draco standing looking at me, or a ET. I don't scare easily. And I haven't explored it. I don't think I want to. Whatever it was really terrible, whatever it was. So that I had that communication with them. When they want something from me, I hear from them. I've reached out to them several times, asked them if they could help me with my situation, but My understanding of it is that I agree to this suffering. There's another reason for it, admin, which is that I did agree to take on some of the collective's victim energy. And we had a meeting on the ship in 2011 that I have conscious recall of. And I struggled with this for a long time, but they showed me how this works, that they wanted volunteers to help break through. The planet was surrounded at that time with this dark fog energy that was there as a result of so much of the people on the planet feeling like victims and being very low frequency from that. Being a victim puts you in a very low frequency. And they had a whole bunch of us on the ship, and they were talking to us about how, if you sign up for this, if you agree to this mission, and you take on the role of being a victim, but you don't respond by being a victim. So it transmutes the energy into light, and they showed how it poked through that dark energy and allowed light to come through.
Now that is an amazing story, because this is the first time I've ever heard of somebody saying I'm a volunteer rather than an abductee or an experiencer. Cookie, what do you think?
Well, I love what she says there at the end about you take on the victim thing, you agree to it, but then you rise above it, and that helps break the cycle. That really resonates with me. It's funny because I just mentioned Linda at that same Eureka Springs, I think it was 2014. Sherry was there that same year, and she was talking all about Da. If I recall, Da was like a father figure to her, an alien, but ended up feeling a great deal of connection with this Da figure.
Da. That's interesting.
Yeah, her telling her story has come at a great cost. With family, friends, health issues. She's had a lot of health issues. And, we talk so much on this show about whether or not that can just be from contact, maybe not even because they were wanting to hurt us as much as it's just powerful stuff. I don't know. What do you think, Katie?
Yeah, I think, the late Dr. Leo Sprinkle talked about people coming in as volunteers. So I know that's kind of a concept that's been around for decades, that some of us are volunteering to come in. And I've heard this a lot from contactees and abductees, to come in and not only help our planet and the earth, but to raise the frequency and all that new age kind of stuff. So, it's a possibility. And I just hope that that's true, and that we break through and we get out from all this negativity and fear. That would be a wonderful thing, I think. So I'm for it.
I hope they just kind of send the low frequency people like myself somewhere nice, or I just hope I don't end up being eaten. I can't imagine some alien with a toothpick in his mouth said, "Man, that guy was great."
Why do you think you're not low frequency? The very fact that you're doing this show,
right.
I'm telling you, you're not low frequency.
Okay.
I know you're joking.
Oh, yeah, all right.
You're like, no, I'm not. I'm really low. No, you're not. You're not. You're totally not. I don't think. Well, Katie P., what about case of the week? We got a good case.
Oh yeah, Katie P. I'm in the witness protection program. That's, the name change, if anybody's wondering. I'm really incognito. Nobody knows who I really am. Anyway, okay, case of the week. So this one I picked because I think it kind of showcases what field investigators kind of go through as it's a category 1 case. It's case 119818. It's dated, that would be December 13th, 2021, 7:14 p.m. This is out of Bothell, Washington. 2 witnesses, which I like. And this case was closed as an unknown on there. And it came with 2 photographs. And so I'll show the photographs, just photograph 1 and then zoomed. And as we're showing the photographs, I'll read what the witness said and then what the field investigator said. So he said, at first, 3 lights appeared, then many more, at least 20 in total, all flying in the same direction, glowing red. Witnesses described 16 or more red lights in linear formation, and 2 or 3 lights would create a wingspan. No tail or fuselage was seen. The lights appeared in groups of 2 or 3. Some of the lights appeared larger than a Cessna aircraft. Some of these appeared really big to these witnesses. 3 were in a triangle formation, and 1 shot straight up at a high rate of speed with no noise. So the fact that one shot straight up is really, really the intriguing part there if you trust the witnesses. And according to this, the witnesses were very, very credible, extensive military background in these witnesses. So the interviewer discussed sky lanterns because sky lanterns have an open flame. They are regulated by the International Fire Code and state law, which requires a fire permit for certain activities involving open flame, fire, and burning. It's unlikely that a permit was issued by King County for 30 sky lanterns over this populated sighting area. The movements of the orb lights was not of sky lanterns. In addition, both witnesses were credible. One witness had expertise in the military working with and around various aircraft, and the fear that came over her while watching these bright red orbs. The final disposition of this case was unknown other because they didn't actually see structured craft, so they closed it as an unknown other. What do you guys think, Katie and Chris?
Cookie, go first.
Oh, well, gosh, I feel like these orb sightings are, I don't know if they've always been around, but I feel like they're just coming up more and more all of a sudden, which does make me wonder if it could be ours. I don't know, but they sound too big to be flares or lanterns. And yeah, shooting up, like you said, I mean, that's, if they're to be believed, that's definitely not behavior for a flare or lantern. So it's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think the fact that they were doing unusual movements in the air and then going straight up like that, I could basically say just by looking at the picture, I definitely don't think it's a drone. And I just think because of her unusual things, I'd like to see the pictures develop more to see if there's like a contrail, if there was some kind of liquid fuel used as opposed to, anti-gravity or something of that, because there's a little bit of brightness at that bottom there, which makes me think there might be liquid fuel used as opposed to electromagnetic charge, because electromagnetic charge plasma, you get it around the entire thing. It encompasses the whole thing. Yeah. So that's interesting to me.
And the wind speed was only 6 miles an hour, so it wasn't like they were really going fast along the wind. And I think the size of them, and if the witnesses are to be believed and one shot straight up, that kind of rules out Chinese lanterns. But yeah, interesting case. So Chris, did you catch up with Bob this week?
I did, and he's got another great case for us. Let's roll it, Amanda.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Bob Spearing. I'm MUFON's Director of Investigations on the international side. Last week, I brought you an IFO video that was from April 21st of a Falcon SpaceX re-entry of a rocket into our atmosphere, which caused a spectacle in the sky. April 21st was a very, very busy night. Something else happened in Europe that night that was completely apart from the SpaceX deorbit. A person submitted a report from what they called a place called Sopot, Bulgaria. And it was unusual lights in the sky. And I'm going to show you this video, and I'm going to explain what's going on while we're watching it. So let the video roll. There is no Sopot, Bulgaria. There are two Sopots in the world. One is in Poland and one is in Croatia. I believe that this actually took place in Poland. Sopot, Poland is very close to Gdansk on the Baltic Sea. It is only 200 miles west of Belarus. So what I believe this person was filming were military flares from some sort of exercise. It's a very jumbled look. Usually when we see military flares, they're in a line. But this person was looking out towards the Baltic Sea, and he was probably looking at the line head on. So it looks like a jumble of lights. But what these are most likely military flares. You can see by how quickly they extinguish one by one as they're going on. Since this was only 200 miles away from the Belarus border, right on a body of water that is accessible to the Russian Federation, chances are this was some sort of protective measures being taken by Poland or by one of the Baltic states, Lithuania, Estonia, or so forth. So again, we probably have an IFO, but a very interesting one. orange globular lights in the sky coming and going. If I was an untrained witness, I think that I was looking at something highly anomalous, but it was probably something military instead. Anyway, that's it for this week. Hopefully I'll see you next week. Thank you, Chris, and that's it for today.
You know, guys, over there right now, a lot of people are seeing things in the sky they can't explain. And 99.9% of it is got to be military. You know, Patriot missiles or anti-aircraft, you know, air-to-air missiles. I mean, you name it, those things are flying around. But however, that, 0.01%, they, if there's anything nuclear over there, I'm sure the aliens are going to take a look and see if we start nuking ourselves. What do you think, Cook?
I hope so.
We nuke each other?
No, I hope that the aliens show up and shut us down. That's what I hope. I mean, they've done it before. If we were to believe those reports that they've shut down nuclear sites, I mean, I just pray to God they would do that again. I mean, at some point they might just give up on us and be like, oh, just do what you're going to do. But I hope not.
Katie, what do you think?
I think the percentage is higher, just like the Foo Fighters in World War II. I think our ET friends are curious about what the heck we're doing again. And so I think it's more likely they're going to be zooming around, zipping in and out, checking out what the heck's going on. So I don't know. By the way, Bob, he got a nice haircut. It looks good.
Nice haircut, like that 1950 flat top look. Huh?
I'm not convinced those are flares. I'm not convinced. I want to zoom in on that and look at that because I didn't see him drop. I didn't see, but maybe they were moving this way and just faded out. I don't know.
Yeah, I wondered the same thing. I was expecting them to slowly descend,
kind of fall. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Sometimes military flares don't do that. Believe it or not, we've had military flares before that people thought were sightings. They move very weird.
Right. Well, if they move out this way, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? The best way to figure this one out is hopefully one of the aliens will say, enough, shut everything down, and, maybe we won't kill ourselves this time. By the way, Cookie, you found another celebrity in the ufology field, didn't you? And I think he's a fan. I'm a fan of his, too. Me too.
Yeah, I was really excited by this. So I found this thanks to Saucer Company. Saucer is one of my absolute favorite companies. Not only do I love their clothing, but they post really cool content. So here's one with Nicolas Cage that they posted from a couple of weeks ago. He was quoted as saying, "My wife actually laughs at me because usually, for some reason, why I don't know, on Sunday, I like to just trip out and watch documentaries about flying saucers and UFOs. I just like watching people talk about their experiences. I find their behavior so interesting. It does happen more often than not, and I don't really know the explanation for why. I'll just go on Amazon Prime and watch movies about the historical aspect of people seeing flying saucers. I find it oddly relaxing and mystifying and confounding." Nicolas Cage.
All right, Cage.
So, I know. I'm glad to have him on board. And again, guys, I'm a big fan of Saucer clothing. I wear them all the time, and I'm always talking about them. But you need to follow them for their really cool content. They're on Instagram at Saucer Co. And I'm telling you, every week they have the coolest stuff. And of course, you can find their clothing as well at their website, saucerco.com. I don't get paid to say that. I'm just really big fans of what they do. They're really cool family company right here in the States. And yeah, they post really cool content. So there you go. It's a little plug there before we bring on our guest.
I love that. Yeah. Now's a great time to bring on our guest. What do you say?
Yeah.
I want to welcome Linda Zimermann. She is an author and paranormal researcher. She is a research chemist turned award-winning author of 30 books on science, history, the paranormal, and fiction. She has lectured across the country and has appeared on numerous TV and radio shows. Her first book on Hudson Valley UFO sightings was made into an award-winning documentary. And with her extensive knowledge of numerous paranormal topics, we are so honored to welcome her to the show. So welcome, Linda. We are so thrilled that you're here with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a fun show.
We try.
Yeah, we managed to have fun.
You have to now, this day and age, right? You have to laugh a little bit and not take ourselves so seriously. Well, so with Pine Bush coming up in Hudson Valley, I would just like to start off asking you, is that where you're from? Were you born and raised in Hudson Valley, and why your interest in that area in particular?
Yes, I was born and raised here, and growing up here, UFOs just seemed to be normal because it happened all the time. And especially during the wave of the 1980s, if you didn't see it, you knew somebody who did, but chances are your entire family saw one of the triangles or V's. Your best friends, it was all the talk. So I thought this happened all over the place. I thought it was normal. So it just was something I grew up with. I had my own sightings, which always helps. And there came a point where people just, regardless of what I was lecturing on in this area, whether it was the paranormal or history, the Civil War, you name it, people would come up to me afterwards and tell me their UFO stories. And I thought, well, if even if, small percentage of these are true, the Hudson Valley is the most active place, not only in the country, I think, but the world. And I jumped both feet into that rabbit hole and have been researching ever since.
I love that.
Yep.
Let's talk about Pine Bush for a second, the actual festival, because that's coming up June 4th. And people, come on, people from all over. Come, we're all going to be there. We're excited to meet you. And Linda, I understand that you really helped start this whole thing. Like you were like literally the first speaker they ever had, right?
I may have been the first speaker. I go way back. There was a time when it was just the festival, and I would speak in the morning and I would speak in the afternoon. And I think they may have had another speaker there, but that was it. And it has grown considerably. And it's amazing if you've never been to Pine Bush. It's this small little, town, and it gets so packed with people, and some of them are just there for the street food and, the amusing aspects, getting your face painted green and things like that. But so many are there because they want to share their stories. And that is a wonderful thing, to be with thousands and thousands of like-minded people, because as I'm sure you all know, this is a field where you can feel very isolated and alone and ridiculed. And to be with people who say, oh yeah, I saw something, no big deal. It's a good thing. It really is.
Yeah.
Well, Linda, I'm not familiar with the Hudson Valley area, so I'd like to ask you about a couple of the sightings there, if I could. One of them is the boomerang sighting. Now, that put Hudson Valley on the map. Am I correct?
Yes.
There was a sighting that was kind of over the highway and stuff of that nature?
There were probably about 100 such sightings. They called it the Westchester boomerang or the Hudson Valley boomerang. There were triangles, boomerangs, V-shaped, and they all kind of got lumped into the boomerang or triangle. This was a work of Michael Schratz, where he took witness descriptions and did all of these sketches. And this is a fraction of the different types of configurations that there were. But the boomerang-shaped massive craft, often described as being at treetop height, completely silent. And when a sighting of 5 or 10 seconds can change your life, people would stand under these hovering craft for as long as 20 minutes. Talk about life altering, and tens and tens of thousands of witnesses. Basically from 82 to 89 was the height of this boomerang triangle wave, which then very interestingly transferred the height of the activity to Pine Bush from the late 80s to early 90s. So it was a ufologist's dream here for well over a decade.
So from 82 to 89, I mean, why that time period? Do we have military bases that are close by? I mean, similarly out here, a ranch that I've been investigating from the late 70s, we had a huge wave over like a 3-year span. And I'm just wondering what you contribute that time frame to and why the activity was so heightened then. Do you have any ideas why that might be?
No.
No.
That's the short answer.
Okay, next question.
Yeah. No idea.
We did have Stewart Air Force Base, which during the 80s though was it was an auxiliary base and a commercial airport at that point. We have a nuclear reactor, but lots of places around the country have a nuclear reactor. There isn't anything I can put my finger on that specifically was happening with the human population in the Hudson Valley in the 80s that would correspond to this increase in activity. It was dramatic, intense, and I always compare this to the Phoenix Lights, which was phenomenal. That was one night. And I always say, yeah, that was a typical night of the week here in the Hudson Valley for 7 years. And I'm it sounds like an exaggeration. It isn't, because you would get 5,000-10,000 people stopping their cars on highways, getting out. And so many people told me it was so low, I could have hit it with a rock. I could have hit it with a baseball, a tennis ball. I've gotten all sorts of what I could have hit it with. That's how low, enormous, intense these objects were. I think the best account, this woman, she was just so awestruck. This thing was so enormous, so low. She said the entire sky was metal and lights. And if you think about, I get chills even saying that, imagining what kind of an experience is that when your entire sky, your entire field of view is taken up by a craft you cannot explain.
Wow. Were there any abductions associated with these triangular craft, to your knowledge?
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Yes, that was a hallmark also of the wave. When I first started this, I thought the majority of stories are going to be, I saw lights in the sky. And the very first person we interviewed for the documentary turned out to be a multi-generational abduction case where he had been having abduction experiences since the 1950s. And both of his parents had since the 1930s. And it's like, what have I gotten myself in for here? It was quite a surprise. But time and time again, if a person had a sighting of a craft that was a prolonged period of time, more than a few seconds, usually minutes, if it was very, very close, chances are they had some sort of missing time or abduction experience. And that was, I started calling the Hudson Valley, I named it Abduction Alley. Because it was my first book. It was the largest chapter in the book. It was just unbelievable.
What was the name of that first book?
In the Night Sky.
Okay.
And that was the film, the name of the documentary that was named that as well.
Okay.
That was the first. Yes.
So, okay, because I was going to ask you about specifically with the boomerangs, what your thoughts were, if they were truly like, non-human craft, or if they could possibly be ours. You talk about hundreds of abductions. My lab or true non-human? Like, how much detail did you get from abductees about their experience on boomerang craft?
Not a lot of recollections on board. They might see, there was a lot of grays. It was predominantly grays. They might see them. There was one woman who drove within 1 foot of one standing in the road. She and her friend were just going shopping, and they didn't know anything about aliens. The only thing they could compare it to at the time was the Elephant Man. He was gray and he, had this odd skin. So it was missing time. It was glimpses of perhaps grays, some sort of experiments. So that was the most of it. Some people went through regression, but that could be a double-edged sword. Is that the truth? Is it an imagination? And had more detail. But for the most part, next thing they know, 3 hours are gone, and they can't explain it, and they have nosebleeds, and they have scoop marks, and on and on and on.
Right.
Yeah, the way, I'll tell you, back in the 80s and stuff, the way it was, they might have just put up a warehouse and just had people go through the door, get what they wanted, and come out. There so many abductions and sightings and everything in that area. I just want to mention about that boomerang sighting. I interviewed a lady down there that was on the road as that night happened, and she says she thought it was a 747 coming in, and she says, oh my God, she had one of those roof windows, and she says, oh my God, this 747 is really low, and it's coming right at me. And then she realized that's not an airplane. That thing is hovering right over my car, and she damn near, went into the field next to it. But isn't it true they had so many sightings down there with this boomerang that the town actually made an ordinance or something that you're not allowed to park on the side of the road and watch the aliens or something?
Pine Bush was a very small rural farming community. And late 80s, people were starting to sell their farms for housing developments. And who is going to buy a new expensive home when there are 400 crazy UFO people lining the street every night? That's what was happening at Pine Bush. People from the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, would descend on these streets every single night. And so the town was getting a little upset. The developers were putting on pressure, and there were ordinances against pulling your car off to the side of the road and, to get out and look at the sky. They made that illegal. You could be fined and ticketed because you pulled over to get out and look at the sky. That quickly changed when they realized they could monetize this, and suddenly, after a few years, they realized, let's not fine these people. Let's have a UFO festival and call ourselves the UFO capital of the Northeast. Right. So it was a welcome change.
Yeah, my question to you is, there's a triangle that you sent us a picture of with something coming out of it. Amanda, there we go. Look at that thing right there. Why don't you explain that sighting to us?
Sure. This is thanks to the wonderfully talented Michael Schratt, who had gotten this from a witness I had written about, Maureen Davis. She was a reference librarian in the Hudson Valley. And she was in Yorktown Heights, which is a real hotbed of activity, also has some very interesting gravitational anomalies in the town, which I know, Chris, we have spoken about.
Oh, yeah.
So she's sitting at the bus stop waiting for her husband to come home, commuting on the bus. And she sees this craft very similar to this size, to this shape. And almost everybody, so that's the size of a football field. So I said, was it the size of a football field? She's like, no. And she's thinking a moment, you try to coax things out of witnesses without leading them. Then I said, well, what could you compare it to? She said it was the size of a football stadium.
Whoa.
And she said there was an opening in the center. She didn't see a panel sliding or like an iris of a camera opening. All of a sudden there was this opening, and a red ball, a red orb comes out. I've heard this so many times, takes off, gone for a while, comes back and goes up into the craft and then the opening is gone. Again, she didn't see any doors or anything. The thing that really made her story stand out, as if a football stadium size craft wasn't big enough, from her angle, she could see up inside the craft. And what Michael's depicted here inside was what she described as like looking at the balconies on the side of an apartment building. She actually saw different levels inside of this craft, which is phenomenal. So Maureen's story is still one of the best. And, she says, I'm a reference librarian, I don't make things up.
How big did she describe that red ball that came down from the craft? How big would that ball have been? And was it like a scout? I mean, is there any idea what maybe that was doing?
Well, I guess if it was a stadium sized, that had to be a fairly large red ball. Yes. And that was also another trademark here in the Hudson Valley, and I've seen it in many other cases across the world, actually. A red ball either trailing the craft or going in and out of it. Some people describe it's docking with the mothership, or it's a probe being released. It does seem to be some sort of scout.
With these triangular craft too, I have one other question about it. Were there like electromagnetic effects on people's like vehicles and trucks like we see in Close Encounters of the Third Kind? Was that reported with these as well?
In the early triangles, that's an excellent point, because we expect if something's at treetop level, everything's going to stop. There was a couple of cases in the 60s of triangles that static on the radio, the car stalled. There were a few isolated incidents with that. People actually feeling, that electricity in the air. But for the most part, people voluntarily pulled their cars over to the sides of the road and got out and watched these craft. So that is a significant point, that not a lot of stalling, and yeah, it happened, but not for the proximity of these craft. You would think it would have been a lot more prevalent.
Yeah. Well, and abductions too seem to have changed through the decades. You'll get this just cluster of, everybody describing the exact same thing. And then 10 years later it shifts. And I just wonder if that's kind of another one of those shifts. We have only like 4 minutes until break. So a couple real quick things. Is Pine Bush still really active? Could we get lucky in early June when we're all up there? Okay.
Yes, particularly the last couple of years with COVID and people having a lot more time to get out and look. And we regularly go up there for sky watches, and not every time, but just a couple of years ago, actually, we saw some large lit craft just going back and forth, zigzagging, 90-degree turns, super bright lights right over a cornfield, just a minute or two from downtown. So yes, definitely, if you're coming for the festival, try to spend a night or two out in the fields.
That's definitely the plan. You were talking about how a lot of developers and stuff were kind of freaked out, like, well, don't make it the UFO town because people won't want to come here. People like me are going online and looking at real estate in Pine Bush for the reason of wanting to be up there with other like-minded people. I mean, maybe just enough of us can all kind of gather in there and have homes and do sky watches every night. I don't know. Really quick, again, just a couple minutes till break, but do you think there's any significance to the color? You mentioned over and over again hearing a red ball dropping down out of these craft.
There does seem to be something specific to, if we want to call it the scout craft, for it being red, whatever that means. I've heard of green balls in front of craft, but that's was related to military, I believe, but for whatever reason, chalk that up to one of the characteristics unknown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any reports of like crop circles in that? You mentioned cornfields and farming area. I mean, are there crop circles out there or any markings?
A couple. The man Gary I interviewed with the multi-generational abductions, he lived in a farmhouse near there, and one day his neighbor, who was a farmer, is like giving him grief, yelling at him, "What did you do to my field?" Because it was near his property, and there was a large circle impressed in it. And Gary's like I did that? How?
Is that it there? Is that the picture we have there?
No, that is a longer story that maybe
Okay.
we should save for after
break.
That is the driveway circle, which is a great story. So,
well, I'm just still stuck on this whole fact that electromagnetic effects were happening like early on and then kind of shifted. And then Katie mentions the abduction kind of shifting. So it's almost like things are changing before our eyes. I don't know if their technology is advancing and they just didn't need that anymore. Because you look at old reports from the 70s, you know, in the early 80s, and it does like power lines. And this was a big theory in ufology at the time, and, you know, pulling up water and all these different sources. So I find that really fascinating. So before we have 45 seconds before break. So I wanted to mention your new book. So you took the 3 Hudson Valley books, and then you compiled them into one big book now, The Hudson Valley UFOs, The Best Evidence. Can you talk about this before we go to break?
Sure. I had enough material. I had another 5 years of cases that people had told me about. And rather than come out with a 4th book, I said, this is getting ridiculous. We need one big reference. So all of the cases that I could fit in there, it's like 500 pages, 8.5 by 11. It's all 3 books plus another book's worth of material in there. So if you're interested in the Hudson Valley, I can easily say you're not going to find another book like this.
That's awesome. I definitely have to get that one. All right, it's time for break. Hang in there. We will be right back with more from Linda Zimermann.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Scrolling all day, time can disappear. Wanna make it count? Why not volunteer?
Posting pics of your food, that takes up time. Time, you got time to binge all of season 9, though it got so bad.
Time, you got time. We're gonna grow back and be the same browse you had.
Just a few hours to keep families from harm. Help us end home fires with Sound the Alarm.
Volunteer for a day to install free smoke alarms in your community.
Discover the Observation Deck, a one-of-a-kind virtual event platform that takes video conferencing to the next level by using avatars to navigate a campus. There's so many areas and activities to choose from. There's a 1,000-seat auditorium, an expo hall, a nightclub, and even a beach. So come attend a conference, take a class, or hear a lecture on the incredible Observation Deck campus. Go to theobservationdk.com.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected. Only at kgradb.com.
All right, we're back. Wake us up. It's Tuesday night. Okay, Linda, let's go back to that burn mark on the ground. I'm super excited to hear this, how this occurred.
Okay, we're going to 1982, right at the start of the Hudson Valley wave. This was not a triangular craft. This was in the town of Monroe, which is about 10 minutes from where I live now. And there was a street there that was having a lot of activity going back to the 60s. For whatever reason, this is a hot spot within a hot spot. And this woman's living in a house that was set back from the road and kind of a very private area. So not a lot of people would come down there. And her two dogs are going ballistic. They sense something, which animals always seem to do. And all of a sudden on their second story bedroom, she said it was like two Mack truck headlights shining in the window. And she was very nervous about burglars getting robbed because they were kind of isolated. She should have been upset. The dogs are going nuts. There's these bizarre lights in her second story window. She can't wake up her husband. He just will not wake up. And suddenly something comes over her and she said, I'll just find out what it was in the morning. She said, just totally uncharacteristic. And the next, she blanks out. The next thing she knows, it is morning. And she's starting to tell her husband, there was these craft, the dogs were going nuts, and he was a science teacher, and he's like, oh yeah, must have been aliens, didn't believe a word of it. So he goes outside, and I'll go look around for signs of the aliens. He comes running in, white as a sheet, call the sheriff, call the National Guard, call everybody. She says, oh, what's the matter? Well, they were doing some construction, and for concrete, you need sand. So they had a truckload of sand delivered. So what you're seeing here is the driveway section where this mountain of sand had been when they went to bed. When they got up, the sand was completely gone, except for these concentric rings here. The sand was pressed and heated into the blacktop. So this was probably, I measured about 18 feet roughly in diameter, these concentric circles. So the sand was gone. I don't know if they took it, blew it away. I don't know. But whatever it was heavy and hot enough to press and fuse the sand into the blacktop. And fortunately, she had the forethought to take a series of Polaroid pictures. One of the pictures had their car in it, so I was able to judge the scale. But they finally got through to, I believe it was the local sheriff's office, and they said, you have to come out and see this. And he said, we are so swamped with calls, not just of UFO sightings, but of UFO landings. He said, and there's nothing we can do about it. So no one ever came out to take a report. So this is what I'm talking about, a typical night of the week in the Hudson Valley. So many UFO landings, the police, the local law enforcement didn't know what to do about it.
Wow.
Linda, was there any radiation levels? Do we know if there was any radiation levels or anything of that nature? Because with that sand being fused, there should have been some crystallized, almost like glass, correctly? Because if I remember right, it was a high temperature that fused that, right?
It was, yes, it was a high temperature. Unfortunately, by the time I met this woman and got her story, this area had been paved over, but it's still there. And I did go there with my Geiger counter and everything else and didn't really detect anything. And for years, she has unfortunately sold the house. She said, if you can get investigators here, you can dig up my driveway or take a core sample. And I couldn't get anybody interested. Chris, I know you would have been here in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I as a matter of fact, I wanted to take some grass samples that were right next to the driveway there, because you and I have talked about this case several times, among other cases down there. But I definitely think that there was some problem, I believe, at the edges where the grass died right off and wouldn't grow back. Is that correct?
I don't know how long that lasted. The grass was fine but I was there decades later. But that circle is still on that driveway under another layer of blacktop. I don't know how amenable the new owners are. I have yet to knock on the door and
say, you think they mind if I came with a pick and shovel? Start tearing up the driveway? You don't think I'd get a lawsuit on my hands? Yeah. Hey, you and I, Linda, have investigated a lot of cases, and I want to get this case out because the one picture you showed of the triangle dropping something, I had something very similar happen in Tuxedo Park, which I have to tell folks, let me tell you something. This is one brave woman, Linda Zimermann, because I was investigating this thing. I got a call from this guy. I can't mention his name, but he's a very credible witness. Linda knows it's very credible. He says, I don't care if you believe me or not, but I watched this triangle hover on the lake, and it dropped something into the lake. A barrel-sized object was almost round and stuff, which could have been a scout ship checking the lake, because after that in Tuxedo Park Lake, people were starting to see lights underneath the water. Now, Linda, please explain, because I sent you on a deadly mission. Because I wasn't going to go. I said, screw this. If I get called by the police, at least I could deny everything. But anyways, I actually sent you into that lake to get water samples. Could you tell the audience how you bravely did that and what we found with it?
And if I failed, you were going to disavow knowledge of me.
Oh, yeah. You were like Mission Impossible. You were like Tom Cruise. I don't know your name.
I was expendable.
If the police called me, I go, Linda, who? What?
Yeah. Well, Tuxedo Park, for those who don't know, is probably one of the most affluent, exclusive, gated enclaves in the country. Mansions like you would not believe there. And you don't just walk up and say, hey, can I come in and take water out of your lake? You need to know someone who will then tell the private police force to let you in the gate. So fortunately, I had a friend who owned a home there at the time. And I kind of found a rather secluded area, and I may or may not have crawled through the woods. I was traveling rather low through the brush, and fortunately, I had sterile collection tubes from my friend who worked in a laboratory at the time, and made it to the water's edge and took several tubes of water and surreptitiously made my way back to the car and step on it. Let's get out of here. So I hope I have not incriminated myself here. Because they're not very happy about UFOs being talked about in Tuxedo Park.
No, and actually, I had one of my sightings right there on the dock. I was taken to Tuxedo Park right there at the lake, and I had my first sighting. But I will tell you what Linda did. Linda took water samples, and what we were looking for, there was a mysterious algae bloom in this lake. that they've never had before. And it was not on the shorelines. It was actually in the center of the lake, and which nobody could explain that. And it was in a circle. And wouldn't you know it, it was right at the place where that object was dropped in the lake by the triangle. So we wanted to see if we can get some water samples to see. And what we were looking for is nitrates and phosphates that would cause the algae bloom. And there was no nitrates and there was no phosphates. And they don't know how this algae bloom occurred. But one last thing before I shut my mouth is in this place where this algae bloom was, there's also this lake becomes iced over, except for this one spot, which is a perfectly round circle that stays crystal clear, no ice, and stays like that. Right, Linda?
Yes.
I know you had mentioned that before, and that reminds me about that dry circle where the snow doesn't stay. It's just dry dirt, and the snow, everything is wet. I mean, is that maybe a similar phenomenon in the water as on the land? Like something is changing the chemical makeup of something, right? I mean, that has to be able to be studied scientifically. So I think that's awesome. You guys were out there collecting samples and trying to figure that stuff out, because that's where we're going to find some answers, you know? So kudos to that.
Well, just one last thing. We actually wanted to send a MUFON diver up there, and they refused. They said, no chance in hell. You're not getting into that lake.
Wow, that bums me out.
Yeah.
Well, I've got this image of Linda scooching on her tummy like this winter. It's iced over. Chris has got a rope around her. Like, just get out to the middle. If it breaks, I'll pull you back really fast.
Chris was 100 miles away, manning the phone, getting bail money ready for Linda.
Linda take the fall. Really nice.
Okay, I'm coming down with bail money.
Hey, Linda, I want to backtrack to when you were talking about animals and how they do act very strange. Sometimes they're the first indication that something's about to go odd.
Yeah.
You actually wrote a whole book about this. Can you talk about that?
Sure. During my Hudson Valley interviews, often the first thing people would say was, my dog went crazy, or the horses were going nuts. And so I went outside and I saw the craft. And I used to joke, if it wasn't for, our pets, our farm animals alerting us, we'd miss half of these sightings. And I was like, well, wait a minute. What is that? From my science background, you can't make a statement like that and then not say, well, what are the implications? So I started collecting animal reactions cases worldwide and was stunned. You name the continent, you name the decade, and there are everything from Romanian chickens to alligators in the Amazon to ordinary house pets and farm animals. Their predominant reaction is extreme fear. Horses will risk injury trying to kick their way out of barns to get the incident in Exeter. There's a lot of famous cases. As the human witnesses are watching this craft, the horses were destroying their stalls and their barns trying to get away. What are they hearing? What are they sensing? So what I did was I looked at, obviously animals for the most part have better hearing, higher range hearing, except for birds. They have their higher range is very low, like 1/10 of ours. So whatever it is they're experiencing is not high-pitched sounds. So they're extremely sensitive to magnetic fields, barometric pressure. They can detect a difference in barometric pressure over about 10 or 15 feet.
Mm-hmm.
That's how. So are these craft exerting some sort of fields? I think magnetic is, all animals, all creatures have a magnetoreception where they're sensitive to magnetic fields, and humans have it too, as much as scientists are trying to downplay it. We have cryptochromes in our eyes, which are sensitive. Homing pigeons can literally see magnetic fields. It's like road maps in the sky. We have magnetite in our brains, which are like a lot of little compasses. So some people are very sensitive to magnetic fields. Some people, not so much, but we surround ourselves with all of this technology creating EM fields, and we've lost a lot of that sense. There's an indigenous tribe in Australia, the Kayuk Thayor. I should have the butcher cleaver for that. But they have no words for right, left, up, down. Everything is north, south, east, west. They'll say, could you move to the southwest? I want to sit down. Or you have a bug on your northeast shoulder. They're like human compasses because they live in nature. And that's the way they're brought up. They're so sensitive to it. So, Katie, when you were talking about the EM effects on vehicles, imagine the EM effects on humans who are sensitive, on animals who are very, very sensitive. I describe it, is it like to these poor animals being put on a carnival ride and being, their whole world is shifting and twisting, and it gets them very agitated. So I try to break down all the senses, and I certainly don't discount that they have a sixth sense or something we do not have. Right. But clearly they are not happy. Very few cases where the animals are attracted or don't react. Right. It's usually get me the hell out of here. Right.
Sometimes we need to trust that. If my dog doesn't like you, I'm probably not supposed to like you.
There you go.
But I was just going to say, too, I have heard cases where, how sometimes people do not act right after a contact event. Like you were just saying earlier, that wouldn't have been my normal response. I can't explain why. I just went back to bed and figured I'd look at it tomorrow. And sometimes people have described, my dog was freaking out, but then all of a sudden just seemed totally subdued, and we both just went back to sleep. And I feel like they can even control the animals somehow.
Absolutely. There's a great case in Ohinapaka, New Zealand. I hope I got that right. Where
you go for it, Linda.
I'm sticking with it. It was a sheep rancher, and he was on a horse, and he had his dogs. Now you've seen how active sheep herding dogs are, bouncing all over the place. Well, he notices his horse stops and is frozen. Then his dogs stop and are frozen. Then he realized he's paralyzed. He cannot move. So you have dogs, a horse, and a human paralyzed. And it's at that point he notices this cone-shaped UFO few hundred yards in front of him, and he's starting to get worried. Am I going to be able to breathe? Is the horse even breathing? Are we ever going to be able to move again? And he doesn't know if he had any lost time, but as soon as the craft took off, he said it was like a switch went off and they were all able to move again. Wow. So whatever it is that affects humans affects animals similarly. And it's something we need to look into and pay attention to, because I gave a talk to a MUFON group, and the woman, the head of the group, said, I'm ashamed to say I don't even ask about animal reactions. She said, I'm going to tell all my field investigators to get this book and start adding that as part of their interviews.
Right. That's an excellent point. I think that's really valuable information. And oftentimes we hear in these close encounter sightings too, that not only do the animals get subdued, but everything goes silent, just still. Even insects stop chirping, or birds stop chirping, like you mentioned. So I think I'll tell my field investigators that as well. Chris, how about you? I think that's really great information.
Once I hear the birds stop chirping and the insects chirping and everything else, I know it's going to be a bad day or night. So it's just the way it is. I will tell you this, though, Linda. One of the things I wanted to ask you about the animal situation, I know you did paranormal, and we'll get into that a little later, but I read one time where an animal was actually injured by an encounter. They actually did an autopsy on a dog that the owner claimed there was an alien near them, and the dog started barking, and a light flashed on the dog, and the dog actually, the vet couldn't explain it other than saying that the dog was melted from the inside. I mean, there was nothing external, but when they opened him up, he was all burned up like ionized radiation. Do you see any similar cases like that?
In the Hudson Valley?
Or anywhere?
Oh, no, but yeah, there was a case in South America. Topo, the dog, went charging after this UFO. And yes, the light was on him, and the necropsy that was done after the poor dog died 3 days later, his organs had been superheated, and somehow his body fat had been melted and had come through his skin.
Oh my gosh.
That is one superheated, sounds like the poor dog was microwaved. But yes, there are other cases where animals are there was a horse case in British Columbia. A man was riding his horse, and the horse started bucking wildly. The UFO that had been hidden in a cloud comes out of the cloud very close to them, and the horse was just unbelievably shaken by it. And unfortunately, a couple of weeks later, started developing tumors all over its body. I doubt the poor horse made it, but after the horse calmed down and he was riding the horse back home, they came upon the body of another horse that had been completely singed. The area around it was not singed, but the horse had clearly been burned. And he came back the next day with, I think it was a veterinarian, to examine this horse. The body was gone. There were no tire tracks leading or footprints leading to where this horse was in the woods. And the witness said it was like the body had just been lifted straight up. So perhaps these animals have reasons to be, then we get into cattle mutilations, which is a whole other thing.
Yeah, that was my next question.
Yeah, so perhaps animals have reason to fear because it doesn't usually end up well for the animal.
Right. Are there a lot of reported cattle mutilations in the Hudson Valley area?
No, there are some anecdotal cases. During the 1980s, there was one cattle rancher who basically lost his entire herd in one night, and they tried to write it off as a pack of wild dogs. Well, I'm sorry, 50 angry cattle are not going to be taken down by a few stray dogs.
Right.
But other than that, not as much as you would think.
Interesting.
I know that you also, we talk about this almost every week, how paranormal activity in general does seem to tie into UFO contact. I'd love to have your thoughts on that, how a lot of contactees and experiencers it seems to just open up Pandora's box.
Yes, if they've had a very close encounter or missing time, chances are they're going to start having poltergeist activity or become more sensitive to the paranormal. I've spoken to so many people who they become clairvoyant, clairaudient, some degree of psychic abilities afterwards. But places, hotspots like Pine Bush, I've written many cases about hauntings in Pine Bush. You cannot walk down the street in Pine Bush without passing half a dozen places, homes, and businesses that have paranormal activity as well. So I have to admit, I fought this hard in the beginning, having started as a paranormal investigator And people would say, "Oh, well, UFOs, they're all related." I'm like, "What are you, crazy? What does one have to do with the other?" And now I'm finding they are inexplicably woven together somehow.
And you have books dealing with the paranormal as well, don't you?
14 or 15 of them. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Just a
couple.
few.
Yeah, just a couple.
Series of them.
Just a few. But, who's counting? I think, do we have any pictures of those covers? Oh,
There we
I love
go.
that.
The Ghost Investigator series. Yeah, I was investigating haunted sites before, all these shows were on, long ago. And it was amazing because nobody else was doing it then. And people would literally mail me their house keys and saying, "Oh, we're going to Florida for 2 months. Here, go if you want to go investigate my home." I'm like, how did this happen?
That's awesome. You're the original ghost hunter, Linda Zimermann, the original ghost hunter.
But yeah, I am just so drawn to the unknown and the inexplicable. It's like a moth to a flame there. And so, yeah. And now I'm finding people who have close encounters of one type have close encounters of the other.
Do you have any theories on why that might be happening?
What it seems to be, and this is pure speculation on my part, is that if you're abducted or have a very intense close encounter, it opens things up. It's like sandblasts your psychic ability channels, I think, and you become more sensitive and open and aware of all the other strangeness that's going on. But that's just my theory.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. It's kind of a chicken and egg thing. I wonder if they're drawn to people that, we'll be able to see them and interact with them on many different levels, or if it just opens up. I mean, it changes your life. Any kind of contact event, you're never going to see life the same again. You're going to be looking and you're going to be more sensitive. By the way, that would be a really good side hustle. Like, I'm the paranormal investigator. When you go away, I'll stay in your house, especially if it's a really nice house. And I'll give you a full report when you get home. Mansions only. I'm just saying, it could be really good.
Beach view preferred.
Yes, because paranormal at the beach is like off the freaking charts. I have a question about locations. So I always wonder, could a house, I get asked this all the time. Well, I swear, I think a UFO keeps like coming over my house. Is it my house? And I always think, no, it's you. But I understand that there are hot areas. Pine Bush is obviously a hot area. But do you think it is more, again, it's kind of chicken and egg question. Like, is it more people drawing it in, or could a location just be super active because they're interested in the location?
I think it's both. You're correct that people who have a lifetime of experiences, wherever they go, they will probably have experiences. But I've found time and again, places in the Hudson Valley that have experiences going back generations. Quick story, Stewart Airport, which I mentioned, was an Air Force base. But I spoke to someone who, before it was even an airport, his family farmed that land. And he was in his 80s, and he remembers going to visit the family farm in the 1940s, and his grandparents would tell him stories going back to the 1890s of multicolored lights hovering and moving around the lower field, as they described it. Stewart, then the Air Force, the airport, and then Air Force Base was built on that location. They had a lot of Project Blue Book cases in the 1950s, which I've written about. So sightings over the Air Force Base. There was a Great Triangle sighting in the 60s in that exact location, which did stall the car, turned the radio to static. And it was rumored that it was the base for perhaps these boomerangs or triangles in the 1980s, which I discount because this is not an isolated base. You can see every hangar from the road. You can stand there and see what's coming in and out. No one ever saw a triangle or boomerang go in or out of Stewart. But certainly there were a lot of sightings in the area. So you can say, oh, they were drawn to the Air Force Base, yet decades and decades before, sightings were going on in those fields. So what is it about the land itself?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Well, I can tell you, I got some information on what you were talking about, Linda, in regards to what they kind of look for and aliens look for in houses. They kind of like the ranch houses because it's easier to get fat people through the roof. So if they're abducting them, they don't have to work as hard. Anyways, see, even the dog didn't like that joke.
He didn't like that.
Not funny.
Okay, let's. When you said about what they look for, you and I both know Longview Road, and what we found with Longview Road, with near Sterling Forest, with the nuclear reactor and the residential areas there. Why don't you tell us? I'd like to tell it, but I want you to tell it. Okay, what that whole thing was about? Because you and I worked on that case, and we found a lot of stuff that was really creepy.
Yeah, Long Meadow Road has, you name it, UFOs, cryptids, all sorts of high strangeness. But the witness you talked to talked about a nuclear reactor on Long Meadow, and sure enough, Union Carbide started one, and unfortunately, probably for at least a decade, it was leaking highly radioactive substances into the lake right next to it, and unfortunately, that lake happened to be a reservoir as a water source for a community of houses right there. But certainly if UFOs are drawn to nuclear facilities, both military, yes, which we know, certainly a leaking nuclear facility would probably be like a searchlight, a lighthouse to any of these craft who are drawn to the radioactive sources, which I think is part of why so much activity was there. And part of my my danger game that I like to play with this, I did go back to the site, which has been supposedly cleared up, with my Geiger counter, and was unnerved in a couple of locations as the Geiger counter started chirping. So I dispute the fact that it is a completely cleaned up site. So, yeah. And most people living in the area, if you weren't there when they were cleaning it up in the 80s or living there previously, you have no clue. And I would imagine a lot of that got into the groundwater and underground that will never be cleaned up.
That's not
I just want to piggyback real quick on your credentials, why it's important for people to listen to Linda, because I've known Linda for quite some time now, and she's just fascinating. But you're not only a ufologist, you're a scientist by trade, correct?
Yes, I have the pictures of me in lab coats and safety shoes to prove it.
Would you just quickly tell the listeners all about your science background?
Sure. I actually thought I would be a scientist my whole life. I started my career at Fisher Diagnostics, which was a medical diagnostics company, and started in quality control. My first desk was in a biohazard room, so that was my first position. But worked my way up into R&D. Research and development. I worked in chemistry, hematology, and we would develop test kits, calibrators for automated analyzers. So yeah, I really I love the laboratory environment. I love working with scientists, but it's not the most creative field. So I did leave to pursue writing and research. But yeah, my heart belongs to science 110%.
Well, I think that just helps bring even more credibility to what you do as a researcher and investigator. So I love that. While we're talking about you, can we keep it a little personal and ask if you've had your own experiences? You hinted at that at the beginning, just whatever you're comfortable sharing.
Oh yeah, no, I think that's part of the full disclosure as a researcher. What's my frame of reference? And when I was 19, living in Nanuet, New York, I was in my fuzzy red bathrobe, I believe, studying for an organic chemistry test. And I got a call from a friend who lived a few towns over, and she said, "Go outside. Something strange is passing over, following the course of Route 59, which was the main thoroughfare through Rockland County." So I go running out in my fuzzy bathrobe, and there were 3 lights, yellowish white. I couldn't see any detail in the craft. All I saw were oval shaped, bright lights. And we watched them as they, one went straight to the east, one broke off to the north, one broke off to the south. So my boyfriend and his friend there, I said, let's jump in the car and follow this, try to follow them. And long story short, we eventually went up to Harriman State Park, where I had seen in a book as a kid, somebody had seen a UFO over a lake. And I said, well, maybe they'll go back to this lake. And we're sitting there waiting and waiting. And finally, the one from the east is coming towards us, the one from the north and one from the south. And the 3 of them are on this collision course. And we're saying, oh my God, they're going to crash. And they did come together in this bluish, greenish, blinding flash of light and became one object. Now, that's not anything I learned in physics class. How 3 objects combine into one, and it slowly descended on the top of the hill overlooking the lake, and it had this throbbing blue-green pulse, which was just, and I wanted to, slippers and robe and all, I wanted to run up this mountain and see it. And at that point, a state trooper pulls up. And what is a girl in a bathrobe doing in the car with these guys? And to not sound completely out of my mind, I said, just turn around and look. And he freaks out. I mean, you should have seen his expression drop. And he said, get out of here and get out of here now. And so I had the feeling he didn't want anything to do with this and maybe had dealt with this before. So we pulled away. He blew by us. Wow. I mean, he wanted out of there as much as possible. So that convinced me there were more things in heaven and earth than were in my science textbooks from that point. And then I also saw one of the V-shaped craft back in, it was June of '88. I saw one of the V-shaped craft, massive, silent, just gliding along over a field. And it just, raised the hairs on the back of your neck when you saw this, because you're looking at that and you're saying, I really don't think that's us. You just got that gut feeling you are looking at something very, very special.
Right. That changes you forever. Now there's a drawing that we have. Now that's a different sighting, this hand-drawn one. What is this one here?
This is the wonderful town of Cornwall, New York, which has the best Thai restaurant and pizza place in existence. So we go there often. But back in 1992, it's a summer night, July probably, and the people in this house, their kids come running in. They were playing in the street and they're like, there's a UFO over the house. Okay, sure there is. So they come out of the house and there's this circular craft, which they described as being so low, they thought it was going to crush the house. And people from blocks around came out. So you can picture, summer evening, dozens, if not hundreds of people are out in the street, just mind blown. They call the police, and the police like, yeah, everybody's calling in. What are we going to do about it? But what was so unusual about this is 90% of the witnesses in the street saw this circular craft with windows, multicolored lights. About 10% of the people standing shoulder to shoulder with the others saw a solid black triangle with a single white light in each corner.
Oh, wow.
So how does that happen? Is either of the images correct? Were they projecting this image into people's minds and some people got crossed wires? I don't know how to explain this, but I've interviewed several witnesses, and to this day, you put them in the room, they will argue it was a disc, it was a triangle, it was a disc. And then these little helicopters, which you see the witness drew in there, the military helicopters came after this craft, which took off and was long gone. So this was a major sighting as late as 1992 here in the Hudson Valley, which to my mind is absolutely one of the best and brings up so many questions as to the nature of the phenomena. Like I said, was it really a disc? Was it really a triangle? Was it neither? Right. Was it something completely different? Was it nothing? And this was somehow manipulating.
And what's with the military helicopters? Because my question is, how do they know so quickly? I mean, it takes time to get pilots in these things and get the logbooks and get up there in the sky. And how does that work? And we even get that with fighter jets. You're seeing these craft or orbs, and then you got the fighter jets come in. How do they know? Are they tracking these things on radar? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, going back, certainly to the 50s with the SAGE buildings that were, if you're familiar with the SAGE, which was semi-automated ground environment, which I know means nothing, but it was the tightest radar net across the entire country. So what sophisticated radar systems, tracking systems did we have in the 90s, or do we have now? I don't think anything gets in and out of our airspace without somebody in the government monitoring and tracking it. So I suspect, I cannot prove this, that whatever this was set off a lot of bells and whistles somewhere. It came from somewhere and it took off towards somewhere. So they had a heads up and knew exactly where to send these helicopters. And did the helicopters come from Stewart Air Force Base or Stewart Airport? Did they come from somewhere else? I don't know. But like you said, how many times witnesses watching and the craft barely goes away before some sort of military aircraft is chasing it?
Yeah. That is fascinating about some people seeing a disc and others seeing a triangle. Angelia Shear, who we mentioned earlier, that was her big thing, was human perception. Any good investigator is going to weigh that in, with every case. I mean, who knows? Maybe it was just a projection of some sort, maybe not even an actual solid craft. But I mean, if they can make us fall back asleep when we ought to be up, grabbing a shotgun and calling everyone we know, they could probably make us think we're seeing a different shape than we're really seeing.
If I can just add one more thing, the animal reactions. All of the birds and insects went silent, and the owner of that house had an enormous dog named Hooch, who was absolutely terrified of this, trying to hide under the bed, would not go out into the yard. Now, you know, if you have dogs, that's their domain.
Oh, yeah.
Was terrified to go out in the yard alone for months, was even uneasy in the house for about a year, I believe it was. So if it was just a projection, would that have had the effect on the animals?
I don't think so. No,
Right.
that really, really sounds more like a solid craft. And again, we talk a lot about be careful with these things. People are, if I saw a UFO, I'd hop right out of my car and go running after it. But be careful. There's some kind of energy here that we don't understand. I mean, we're dealing with probably lots of different kinds of beings and craft, and who knows? You might have a great
unless you're in a bathrobe.
I just saw that comment. That was
I was going to say, you're starting a fashion trend. Sorry.
Yeah, and that probably would not have been prudent and probably would not have ended up well for me. So, yeah.
Amanda, our co-producer, was asking that we have another picture about asking for witnesses. If we could put that, maybe you can explain about this.
Oh, okay. This is from Kingston, New York, which is one of the bigger cities, towns on the Hudson River. This is actually from 1912.
Whoa.
Where yes, you can read this. In the southern sky, an object resembling an immense box kite with red and green lights. This is broad daylight. This is an afternoon in downtown. What the heck could that be?
Wow.
And
wow.
This was part of, I always start my Hudson Valley lectures with the mysterious airship wave of 1908, 1910 in this area. I know California, Texas was 1890s, but we had our airship wave 1908, 1910, and you could see 1912 there. What did we have in 1912 that resembled an enormous box kite that could hover with red and green lights? We didn't. Yeah. And all of the critics who, with a wave of their hand, will dismiss the wave of the 1980s, saying it was all secret military craft. I said, all right, let's suppose that's it. And then I lay the mysterious airship wave on them and say, well, what was this? Yeah.
Right.
Linda, I want to go shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about something that people don't really realize is in the Hudson Valley area. Let's talk about the Druid Caves, because I think there's a UFO connection with the caves that are there. That the electromagnetic things that we talked about before. Can you explain to the audience what caves there are down in the Hudson Valley?
Yeah, we have stone chambers that most historians dismiss as colonial root cellars. However, many of them have astronomical alignments to solstices and equinoxes, and I really don't think you need to astronomically align your potato bins. Also, these locations have magnetic anomalies, which have been mapped quite extensively. They seem to have been placed at that location because of the unusual Earth energies. And how these came to light with the UFOs was actually Dr. J. Allen Hynek. There was a man living locally who had had a sighting in the 1980s, and Hynek was here for the wave interviewing people. And this guy's actually a Lamborghini mechanic, so very mechanically oriented. And Hynek is listening to his story, and he's saying to this guy, do you have any idea why are they all here? Why so many of them in this small area? And the guy was also one of these stone site aficionados. And he said, I don't think it has anything to do with it, but we have all these mysterious stone chambers and sites. And so Hynek went to look at a few, and he did believe that there was a connection. And nobody's saying I'm sorry. Some people say they were built by aliens. I'm not saying that, but if there is a connection, I think it's because UFOs do seem to be drawn to unusual magnetic fields.
Yeah.
And if these structures were specifically built on those locations because of their magnetic fields, that might be the draw. And I also think that some ancient sites were constructed because that's where they did see strange things in the sky. and, kind of built things to commemorate them. We see that with cave paintings and petroglyphs and things, that there might have been weird activity going on there before anybody built anything, and they put it there just because of that. So,
Linda, didn't Whitley Strieber have a telepathic message in one of those cellars or root cellars, or I don't know, caves and stuff?
I'm not sure if in one of those, but he did have a stone circle on his property that I think where it all began.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there is some connection with him. And
people have gotten actually sick when they've gone inside those things.
Some people get nauseous. Some people get disoriented. There's a place in Connecticut called Gunjiwamp, and I'm not mispronouncing that. That is actually how you say it.
Wait a minute, I got the cleaver.
Gunjiwamp, there's they call it, I think, the Cliff of Tears. It's all these stone structures, but there's a cliff area. People will just burst into tears, get very, very emotional. I think it's very intense electromagnetic fields along that line, and it affects your brain chemistry. Women in particular are very vulnerable. They'll have hormonal changes just walking through that area. So the Native Americans, who I believe built these sites, they were very sensitive to the land. We're back to that sensitivity. And I think that's why they put some of these structures at these locations, because they were so affected by them.
That's so interesting. Do you, are there reports of, you said, crypto creatures? Do we have Bigfoot, Sasquatch in the area as well?
Many, many more than I ever expected. I always swore I am not going to crypto. I'm just not doing it. And then I think it was December, I gave at the Pine Bush Museum, I gave an entire lecture on cryptids of the Hudson Valley. I gave in.
Yeah.
But you can't ignore the evidence. You can't ignore the newspaper reports going back to the 1800s. There's that Long Meadow Road, some of the most bizarre Bigfoot cases. There was one, somebody saw Bigfoot walking across the road, but it wasn't the entire Bigfoot. He said it was like looking through a slit of a partially open doorway, as if it was some sort of, I know portal is the most overused word, but it was almost like an opening or portal moving across the road with this Bigfoot walking behind it. I came across a fascinating case in the 1800s. We have a little town here called Florida. It's Florida, New York. And they were seeing this 7-8 foot black, hairy, bipedal, human-like creature. And of course, what do the good old boys wanted? Well, let's shoot it. So unfortunately, they actually shot at this creature. They missed his head, but they cut off a big chunk of its hair. And in the articles, it's saying it was given to the farm owner, and the hunter who shot at it kept some. And I am still trying to find those descendants, because I doubt any family would throw that away if they had a chunk of some sort of creature's hair.
It's sitting in the Smithsonian, probably.
Yeah, down in its bunkers down there.
Gee, and we wonder why they don't want to come down to play with us. I mean, like, it's so sad. We, speaking of sad, we've only got 3.5 minutes left, I think, to the whole show. This has flown by. But since we're on this topic, I mean, I'm assuming you're very open to the idea that all of this phenomenon could be dimensional. Interdimensional in some way. Can you just speak to that for a couple minutes?
Sure. If you're looking for the one solution, if there is one, interdimensional would certainly add the mode for the paranormal, the UFOs, the cryptid creatures for coming in and out. If we look at it as the Hudson Valley being kind of a grand central station with all of this phenomenon coming in and out and meeting here. Certainly seeing craft that suddenly appear and suddenly disappear, the bizarre high strangeness and paranormal activity, and the cryptids on top of it. How are they getting here? Where are they going? I don't think they're a lost race of apes. So something is going on that some creatures have either the technology or the natural abilities to move in and out of these dimensions. So it's kind of a scary thought because that puts everything on the table. And if we were to need to somehow defend ourselves against something like that, where do you even start? Mm-hmm. So it's a fascinating and chilling prospect.
Yeah,
good
absolutely.
Bourbon. That's where you would start.
Yeah, I think it answers a lot. Like you said, I think it makes a lot of sense. I want to remind our listeners out there to make sure you check out Amazon and Linda Zimermann's book. She wrote over 30 of them, and one in particular I added here, which is a murder mystery. So you are a woman of many talents and many interests. The Hudson Valley Homicide. I mean, that's right up your alley.
Yeah, I worked with Linda on a homicide that happened in Ithaca, New York.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's a whole other show. We're going to have you back for sure. Because we spent all this time on Hudson Valley, but like I said, there's so much more to you that I would love to learn more about that for sure. So I want to thank you so much for being here. And I want to thank Katie and Chris and Jenna and Jerry and Amanda Skywatcher and or Bill Skywatcher. I'm sorry, Amanda Curran. Got that. Switch that, reverse it, dyslexia. Anyway, it's been a fascinating show, and I hope everybody has a fabulous rest of your week. And we can't wait to have you back on, Linda.
Thank you.
Everybody. Yeah, have a great night, everybody. And we will see you next Tuesday night. Yep, for sure.
Thank you,
Bye,
Linda.
everybody.
That was really great.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.